The Galaxian Empire stood unchallenged for centuries, their dominion stretching across 300 star systems. Their massive ships inspired terror, their technology seemed almost magical, and their soldiers were feared throughout the galaxy. Yet for all their might, they had overlooked a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. Until now. Commander Zorvac, we've detected unusual transmission patterns from Sol 3, reported the sensor officer aboard the Imperial flagship. The signals contain mathematical sequences and primitive visual data. Zorvac, a decorated veteran with scales that had darkened with age and experience, turned his attention to the holographic display. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the information. Intelligent life. In that backwater. He clicked his mandibles in amusement. Prepare the scout vessel Dominator. I will personally investigate this curiosity. The Emperor would be pleased with another world to add to their collection. On Earth, at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, astronomer Frank Miller nearly spilled his coffee when the readings appeared on his monitor. "Lisa, you need to see this," he called to his colleague, Dr. Lisa Howard, who was analyzing data in the adjacent workstation. She hurried over, her eyes widening as she looked at the screen. That's not one of ours. No natural phenomenon creates signals with this pattern," Frank agreed, his voice barely above a whisper. "We're looking at something artificial. Something alien." Lisa finished. She reached for the secure phone. "I'm calling Washington." Within hours, observatories worldwide confirmed the readings. An enormous object was approaching Earth, decelerating as it neared. Military forces around the globe went on high alert. The United Nations convened an emergency session. 3 days later, the Dominator entered Earth orbit, its sleek, metallic hull gleaming in the sunlight. Nearly a mile long, it dwarfed the International Space Station that it deliberately passed during its approach. Zorvac observed the primitive space habitat through the ship's viewing portal. "How quaint," he remarked to his second-in-command. "They've barely left their atmosphere." "Shall we destroy it as a demonstration?" asked his subordinate eagerly. "No," Zorvac replied. "Let's study them first. Open a communication channel to their leaders." The transmission was received simultaneously by every broadcast station on Earth. Screens worldwide displayed the image of Commander Zorvac, his reptilian features causing gasps from viewers unaccustomed to extraterrestrial life. "People of Sol 3, he began, his translator converting his clicks and hisses into human languages. "I am Commander Zorvac of the Galaxian Empire, rulers of 300 worlds. Your planet has been noted for assessment and potential integration into our glorious domain." At the United Nations, diplomats murmured anxiously among themselves. "Integration," whispered the French ambassador. "That sounds like conquest." "Send our response," ordered the Secretary General. A carefully crafted message was transmitted, welcoming the visitors and requesting peaceful dialogue. Zorvac seemed amused by the reply. "Prepare my shuttle. I will meet these creatures face to face." The landing site was prepared at a neutral location in Switzerland. Military forces maintained distance but remained vigilant. News crews broadcast live as the sleek alien craft descended through the clouds. When the shuttle doors opened and Commander Zorvac emerged, flanked by his guards, humanity faced its 3 days after first contact. The sky darkened over major cities worldwide. The Galaxian main fleet had arrived. 12 massive warships positioned strategically across Earth's orbit. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent blue-green metal unknown to human science, and strange energy readings pulsed from their weapons arrays. Commander Zorvac had summoned Earth's representatives to a meeting aboard the Imperial flagship, the Subjugator. "This is insane," muttered Navy Commander Jack Wilson as the military helicopter approached the designated pickup point. "We're just going to fly up to an alien warship and hope they don't decide to keep us." Beside him, diplomat Olivia Reynolds reviewed her notes calmly. "The Galaxians follow strict protocols, Commander. If they wanted us dead, they wouldn't bother with formalities." "That's comforting. Wilson replied, his voice dripping with sarcasm. The Calaxian shuttle that transported them to orbit was surprisingly uncomfortable, designed for reptilian physiology, with hard seats and an atmosphere that smelled faintly of sulfur. Wilson noted every detail, particularly the exposed wiring near the floor panels and the way the pilots struggled with what appeared to be navigation issues. Aboard the subjugator, they were escorted through curved corridors to a vast chamber dominated by a holographic projection of Earth. Emperor Drellix awaited there, his scales a brilliant crimson compared to the blue-green of his subordinates, marking his royal status. Humans of Earth, the Emperor began without preamble, his translator device converting his speech to English. Your world has been granted the privilege of joining the Calaxian Empire. Resistance is futile. Acceptance is mandatory. Wilson couldn't help himself. He laughed. The Emperor's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, the Calaxian equivalent of stunned disbelief. You find amusement in your species' subjugation? Drellix asked, mandibles clicking in agitation. Reynolds quickly intervened. Please forgive Commander Wilson, Your Excellency. Humans sometimes respond to stress with inappropriate humor. We are, of course, honored by your attention to our world. Good, the Emperor continued, mollified. The terms are simple. Earth will provide resources, particularly your abundant water, metals, and biological specimens. Additionally, we require a workforce of 10 million humans to serve in our mines on Proxima Centauri IV. Wilson stepped forward. And what exactly do we get in return for these contributions? Zorvac hissed. You receive the gift of continued existence, human. The Emperor raised a clawed hand for silence. You will be permitted to maintain local governance under imperial oversight. Advanced technology will be provided as your civilization proves its loyalty. Reynolds maintained her diplomatic composure. Your Excellency, Earth's nations will need time to consider these terms and organize any potential contributions. You have 72 of your hours. The United Nations Security Council chamber buzzed with tension as world leaders debated Earth's response to the Calaxian ultimatum. Only 48 hours remained before the aliens' deadline expired. Military options are limited, General Rodriguez reported grimly. Their ships are positioned to target our major cities simultaneously. Even if we launched everything we have, we'd only scratch their hulls before they vaporize half the planet. Then surrender is our only option, asked the German Chancellor, her voice tight with anger. Not necessarily, said a woman standing at the back of the room. All heads turned toward Susan Garcia, a brilliant engineer from NASA's propulsion laboratory. She stepped forward, clutching a tablet computer filled with analysis of the Calaxian vessels. We've been studying their energy signatures since first contact, she explained, projecting diagrams onto the main screen. Their ships emit unusual radiation patterns during power cycling. It suggests their systems are inefficient. Alan Phillips, a communications specialist, joined her at the podium. We've also detected vulnerabilities in their transmission protocols. Their signals aren't properly encrypted. It's like they've never encountered anyone who could challenge them technologically. What exactly are you suggesting? Asked the Secretary General. Garcia's eyes gleamed with determination. Their ships rely on a centralized power distribution system. If we could trigger a specific electromagnetic pulse pattern, we might be able to temporarily disrupt their operations. To what end? Demanded the Russian president. A momentary blackout won't save us from their weapons. Commander Wilson, who had been quietly listening, stood up. We don't need to defeat them militarily. We need to defeat them psychologically. He outlined a daring plan that made several diplomats gasp. That's insane, muttered the British Prime Minister. It's precisely because it's insane that it might work, Reynolds countered. The Calaxians rely on fear and intimidation. Their entire empire is built on projecting power. If we can undermine that image, we expose the Emperor's new clothes. Wilson finished with a smile. The plan was approved by narrow vote. With time running short, Teams worldwide began preparations. In laboratories across the globe, scientists modified satellite arrays to emit specific electromagnetic frequencies. Military special forces positioned teams at key locations. 12 hours before the deadline, Wilson and Reynolds requested another meeting with Emperor Drelixa. Aboard the subjugator, the Emperor seemed pleased by their return. "You've come to accept our terms," he stated confidently. "Not exactly," Reynolds replied carefully. "Earth's nations are willing to discuss integration, but our populace is skeptical of your power." Wilson stepped forward. "Our people are stubborn. They need to see proof of your capabilities before they'll cooperate. You doubt our destructive capacity." Zorvac hissed, mandibles clicking in agitation. "No," Wilson said with a shrug. "But the average person on Earth has seen a lot of science fiction movies. They think this might be an elaborate hoax." The Emperor's scales flushed a deeper red. "You suggest we waste our energy on a demonstration?" Reynolds nodded solemnly. "A controlled display of your weapons on an uninhabited area would convince our population that resistance is indeed futile. It would actually make the transition smoother and more efficient." The Calaxians conferred among themselves in their clicking language. Wilson caught Garcia's eye from across the chamber, where she stood with the technical team, ostensibly present to verify the demonstration's power. She gave him a subtle nod. "Very well," the Emperor finally declared. "We shall target your planet's northern polar ice cap. The resulting melt will also serve as warning of what faces populated areas should you resist further." "Perfect," Wilson said, perhaps too enthusiastically. "We've prepared global broadcasts so everyone on Earth can witness your might." As they returned to Earth to finalize preparations, Reynolds whispered to Wilson, "Do you really think this will work?" Wilson gazed up at the Calaxian ships visible in the daytime sky. "It has to. Because if it doesn't..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. They both knew the stakes couldn't be higher. Around the world, humanity held its breath and prepared its unconventional response to an overwhelming threat. Television networks worldwide interrupted regular programming for the most watched broadcast in human history. Even regions with limited infrastructure received the transmission through emergency channels as 8 billion people turned their attention to the Arctic Circle. "This is not a test," announced a somber news anchor. "The Calaxian Empire will demonstrate their weapons capabilities in 5 minutes. All Arctic research stations have been evacuated. Please remain calm." In a secure bunker beneath the Pentagon, Commander Wilson watched multiple screens showing the Calaxian flagship positioning itself over the target area. Susan Garcia and Alan Phillips monitored equipment nearby, their faces tense with concentration. "Are we ready?" Wilson asked quietly. Garcia nodded. "Satellite array is aligned. EMP generators are charged and targeted. Communications disruption protocol standing by." Phillips added. "Now we just need them to take the bait," Reynolds said, her fingers nervously tapping the console. Aboard the subjugator, Emperor Drelixa addressed his crew. "Target the designated coordinates. Full power to the dissolver beam. Let these primitives witness true power." The massive ship's underside began to glow as energy built in its primary weapon. Sensors across Earth detected the power surge, automatically triggering humanity's countermeasures. Garcia pressed a sequence of commands, initiating electromagnetic pulse. Now, the pulse was invisible to the naked eye, but precisely calibrated to the frequency vulnerabilities in Calaxian technology. It rippled outward, washing over the alien vessel just as its weapon reached maximum charge. Aboard the subjugator, warning lights flashed. "Energy fluctuation in the main coupling," shouted a technician. "Power distribution becoming unstable." "Compensate," ordered Zorvac. "Fire the weapon." The Emperor watched in growing horror as the ship's mighty dissolver beam activated. But instead of the concentrated energy stream that could vaporize mountains, the weapon produced a spectacular but harmless light show. Multicolored energy cascaded from the ship in a pattern reminiscent of Earth's aurora borealis. On the ice below, nothing happened. No explosion, no destruction, Just a pretty light display reflected on the undamaged ice. "What is happening?" Drelixa demanded, his scales paling to a sickly green. "Where is the destruction?" In the Pentagon bunker, Wilson couldn't contain his laughter. "My God, it worked even better than we hoped." Reynolds covered her mouth in astonishment. "They can't control their own weapon systems." The broadcast continued, showing the Calaxian ship's embarrassing display from multiple angles. Within minutes, social media exploded with memes. "Space fireworks show." Read one popular post. "Alien threat or alien light party?" asked another. Phillips grinned as he monitored communications. "They're trying to abort, but our signal interference is keeping them from coordinating properly." The Emperor's fury was absolute. "Cease this demonstration immediately," he ordered. But when the Calaxians tried to power down their weapons, the disrupted systems caused even more spectacular malfunctions, creating what looked like a cosmic light show above the Arctic. "Sir," Garcia said, pointing to another screen, "our deep space monitoring station reports transmissions from the Calaxian fleet are being intercepted throughout their empire. Their own subjugated worlds are watching this failure in real time." Wilson nodded with satisfaction. "Perfect. Phase 1 complete." "They'll retaliate," Reynolds cautioned. "This humiliation won't be tolerated." "Let them try," Wilson replied confidently. "Every move they make now will be scrutinized by the entire galaxy." On screens worldwide, the once fearsome Calaxian flagship drifted awkwardly, still leaking colorful energy into space. News commentators struggled to maintain professional composure as they reported on the technical difficulties experienced by the supposedly all-powerful alien conquerors. "This is just the beginning," Wilson said, watching as hashtags like #GalacticFail and #SpaceFizzle trended globally. "Now for Phase 2. As predicted, the Emperor's response was immediate and furious. The Calaxian ships repositioned for what they intended to be a devastating attack on Earth's major cities. They had no idea humanity was just getting started. "Ground forces deployed to these coordinates," Emperor Drelixa commanded, his voice cold with rage. "No more demonstrations, no more diplomacy. We will take this planet by force and make examples of their leaders." The Calaxian transport ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their hulls glowing red with the heat of entry. They landed in formation outside major cities on every continent: New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, Rio de Janeiro, Cairo, Sydney. In New York City, Lieutenant Carol Martinez watched the alien ships land from her observation post atop a skyscraper. "Targets in position," she reported into her secure radio. "Commencing Operation Mockingbird." The Calaxian soldiers emerged from their transports in formation, resplendent in ornate battle armor that gleamed in the sunlight. Their commander addressed the human population through powerful speakers. "People of Earth, your resistance has been noted. You will now witness the consequences. Surrender immediately or face annihilation." His dramatic speech was interrupted by a strange sound. Laughter, scattered at first, then growing louder as crowds of civilians gathered at a safe distance, pointing and recording with their phones. The Calaxian soldiers struggled visibly with Earth's gravity, their movements clumsy and awkward compared to their graceful appearance in orbit. Their elaborate armor, designed to intimidate rather than function effectively, hindered their movements further. "Look at them," someone in the crowd shouted. "They can barely walk." The soldiers raised their weapons, but before they could fire, Martinez activated her equipment. A targeted electromagnetic pulse, refined from the one used against the orbiting fleet, washed over the Calaxian forces. Their weapons sputtered, producing only weak light effects. Their communication systems emitted high-pitched squeals of feedback. Most embarrassingly, their armor's environmental controls malfunctioned, releasing clouds of foul-smelling gas designed to acclimate them to Earth's atmosphere. "Oh God, they stink," yelled someone in the crowd, pinching their nose dramatically. Similar scenes play out worldwide. In London, Galaxian troops attempted to march toward Parliament, but found themselves unable to navigate the simple step curbs of the sidewalks. In Beijing, their attempt to demonstrate strength by lifting a small car resulted in 3 soldiers straining unsuccessfully while onlookers recorded the humiliation. In his workshop beneath an abandoned factory, engineer Steve Johnson led a team making final adjustments to devices that looked like ordinary drones. "Disruptor swarms ready for deployment," he reported to Martinez. "Activating now." The small drones took flight, surrounding the Galaxian soldiers. Each drone emitted a specific frequency that interfered with the aliens' armor systems in unpredictable ways. Some soldiers found their helmets suddenly opaque. Others experienced random movement in their mechanical joints, causing them to dance uncontrollably. "Are you seeing this?" a news reporter asked incredulously, as a Galaxian squad outside Sydney began performing what looked remarkably like the chicken dance. The fearsome alien invasion appears to be malfunctioning. The videos spread across the internet faster than any meme in history. #SpaceClowns and #Galactic facepalm became the top trending topics worldwide. Creative editing turned Galaxian soldiers into dance videos set to popular songs. Most devastating of all, these videos weren't just circulating on Earth. Phillips and his team had hijacked the Galaxians' own communication channels, broadcasting the humiliating footage to every corner of their empire. Aboard the subjugator, Commander Zorvac received increasingly desperate reports from his ground forces. "The humans are not fighting us," one confused officer reported. "They're mocking us. They've turned our invasion into entertainment," another added with disbelief. The Emperor's scales had faded to a pale, sickly yellow, the Galaxian equivalent of extreme distress. "Recall all ground forces immediately," he ordered. "We must regroup." On Earth, Martinez watched with satisfaction as the alien troops retreated in disarray. "Phase 2 complete," she reported to Wilson. "The Galaxians are running." But everyone knew this was just the beginning of a new phase in the conflict, one that would reshape the galaxy itself. The Grand Council chamber aboard the subjugator had never witnessed such chaos. Emperor Drelixus sat rigidly on his throne as his commanders shouted over one another, mandibles clicking furiously in their native language. "Silence!" The Emperor finally roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. "This humiliation ends now. Prepare the planet-killer weapon." A nervous hush fell over the assembly. Commander Zorvac stepped forward hesitantly. "Your Excellency, I must advise against this course of action. The planet killer has never been successfully tested at full power. The energy requirements alone would." "Are you questioning my authority?" Drelixay interrupted, scales flashing dangerously. "No, Your Excellency," Zorvac replied, lowering his gaze. "I merely suggest caution." On the observation deck, Ambassador Theldor watched the exchange with growing concern. Unlike the military commanders with their elaborate armor and the Emperor with his royal adornments, Theldor wore simple robes that signified his diplomatic status. His scales, a muted gray-blue, reflected his moderate temperament. He turned to his aide. "The Emperor's pride will destroy us all. Prepare my shuttle." As the Galaxian fleet regrouped in higher orbit, Earth continued its psychological warfare. Television broadcasts worldwide now featured alien invasion updates that resembled sports commentary more than crisis reporting. And here we see the Galaxians attempting to form a battle formation. One popular commentator announced over footage of the ship's clumsy maneuvers. "Oh, another navigation error. That's going to cost them points with the judges." In the Pentagon's Secure Command Center, Wilson and Reynolds monitored these broadcasts with a mixture of amusement and concern. "Our strategy is working almost too well," Reynolds noted. "They're being humiliated across their entire empire. Cornered animals are dangerous." Wilson nodded grimly. "Phillips reports their communications are in chaos. We're picking up transmissions from at least 3 subjugated worlds that sound like rebellion planning." "Sir," a junior officer interrupted, "we have a situation. A Calaxian shuttle is requesting landing clearance. They claim to have an ambassador aboard who wishes to negotiate privately. Wilson and Reynolds exchanged surprised glances. Could be a trap, Wilson said. Or an opportunity, Reynolds countered. Let's hear what they have to say. Under heavy security, Ambassador Theldor was escorted to a conference room at Andrews Air Force Base. Unlike previous Calaxian representatives, his demeanor was subdued, almost apologetic. I come without the Emperor's knowledge, he began, his translator device set to a low volume. What I am about to tell you could be considered treason. Reynolds leaned forward. We're listening. The Calaxian Empire is not what it appears to be, Theldor confessed. Our conquest of 300 worlds is exaggerated. Many joined willingly through diplomatic agreements. Others were primitive and offered no resistance. You've been bluffing your way across the galaxy, Wilson said with dawning comprehension. Theldor's scales rippled in the Calaxian equivalent of a nod. Our technology is advanced, yes, but not as omnipotent as we claim. We rely heavily on intimidation and the appearance of invincibility, which we've completely undermined, Reynolds realized. Precisely, the ambassador confirmed. The Emperor is now considering deploying our planet killer weapon. Wilson tensed. You have a planet killer. We have a prototype, Theldor clarified. It has never been successfully tested at full capacity. Attempting to use it against Earth could potentially destabilize the weapon itself, possibly destroying our fleet in the process. So the Emperor is willing to risk his own forces just to save face. Reynolds asked incredulously. Pride is everything in our culture, Theldor explained. The humiliation you have inflicted is worse than death to him. Wilson exchanged a meaningful look with Reynolds. Ambassador, Reynolds said carefully, it sounds like both our peoples are facing a crisis that could end in mutual destruction. Perhaps there's another solution, one that allows the Emperor to preserve his dignity while avoiding unnecessary conflict. Theldor's four eyes blinked in rapid succession, the Calaxian expression of surprise. You would offer terms, even now. Not terms, Wilson corrected. A partnership. But first, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Tell us everything about the Empire, the real Empire, not the myth. As the ambassador began to speak, the outline of an audacious plan took shape, one that might just save both worlds. The grand ceremonial hall aboard the subjugator had been transformed overnight. What had been a stark military chamber now displayed an elaborate mix of Calaxian imperial symbols alongside Earth artifacts. Soft lighting replaced the harsh illumination, and a large circular table occupied the center where the Emperor's throne once stood. Emperor Drelixay entered with his full entourage, his scales polished to a brilliant crimson sheen. His four eyes darted suspiciously around the transformed space. What is the meaning of this? He demanded as Ambassador Theldor bowed deeply. Your Excellency, I present the new Galactic Cultural Exchange Initiative. Theldor explained smoothly. The humans have proposed an innovative solution to our current situation. The doors on the opposite side opened, and the Earth delegation entered. Commander Wilson and Diplomat Reynolds led the group, which included scientists, engineers, and cultural representatives from various nations. They wore specially designed formal attire that incorporated subtle elements of Calaxian ceremonial dress. Emperor Drelixay, Reynolds began, bowing with precisely the right degree of respect, neither subservient nor disrespectful. We come to formalize a historic partnership between our worlds. The Emperor's mandibles clicked rapidly in confusion. Partnership, you were to be conquered. Wilson stepped forward confidently. After careful consideration, Earth has recognized the benefits of joining the galactic community under Calaxian guidance. A murmur ran through the Calaxian officers. This unexpected capitulation caught them completely off guard. However, Reynolds continued, we believe our unique human perspectives and technological approaches could benefit the Empire as well. On cue, Susan Garcia activated a holographic display showing modified designs for Calaxian ships. Our analysis reveals ways to improve your propulsion systems by 40% and weapons efficiency by 35% through relatively simple modifications. The Galaxian engineers in attendance leaned forward, their professional curiosity overcoming their imperial reserve. Furthermore, Wilson added, "We propose reframing the recent events as a planned cultural exchange. Rather than an invasion attempt or a resistance, we suggest describing it as a series of ceremonial demonstrations and good-natured competitions." The galaxy need not know the full details, Reynolds explained delicately. The Emperor's wisdom in seeking innovative approaches to integration can be highlighted instead. Drelix's scales shifted through several colors as he processed this offer. His advisors whispered urgently in his ear. Finally, he spoke. "You offer technology improvements and face-saving measures in exchange for what exactly?" "Knowledge of interstellar travel," Wilson replied promptly. "Cultural exchange rights with other worlds in the Empire, and a special status as technological innovators rather than mere subjects." For several tense moments, the Emperor deliberated. Then, to everyone's surprise, he emitted the distinctive trilling sound of Galaxian laughter. "Clever creatures," he said, his translator rendering his amused tone perfectly. "You offer me victory while claiming victory yourselves." "We prefer to call it mutual benefit, Your Excellency," Reynolds responded with a diplomatic smile. "Very well," the Emperor declared, rising to his full height. "Let it be known throughout the galaxy that Earth has joined the Galaxian Empire through our new cultural exchange program. Their unique approach to problem-solving will strengthen us all." The treaty signing was broadcast across Earth and throughout the Galaxian Empire. Official histories would record this as a brilliant diplomatic innovation by the Emperor, his foresight in recognizing Earth's potential rather than simply conquering it by force. Within a year, human engineers worked alongside Galaxian technicians, improving their aging technologies. Earth became a popular destination for visitors from across the galaxy, drawn by its unique culture and the famous sense of humor that had charmed even the mighty Galaxians. Other subjugated worlds, inspired by Earth's special status, negotiated similar arrangements. The Empire gradually transformed from a military dictatorship into a loose confederation of allied planets. In the officers' lounge of the newly established Galactic Exchange Center in Geneva, Wilson raised a glass with Reynolds. "To the power of laughter," he toasted, "the most unexpected weapon in Earth's arsenal." "And to the future," Reynolds added. "A galaxy where being underestimated might just be humanity's greatest advantage." Outside, a Galaxian transport ship landed smoothly, its systems now incorporating human innovations, proof that sometimes mockery could lead to unexpected friendship.